big friendly hellos to you all. Welcome to the first Notary Governance call of October 17th. Let's take a look. We have a smaller agenda today, just 3 topics, and we'll start off with notary issues. This is going to be an update on how we're processing bug reports, checking in with you guys that might have seen some things, hear any feedback you have, and keep you updated as that goes forward. Check in about Istanbul, kind of get a feel for what you're thinking about the event, kind of give you a high level of what to expect on the Fil Plus side of things and just remind you of the registration link. And then talk really briefly about the upcoming V5 election and how the proposal for allocators is kind of being shaped and thought of, and solicit any kind of early feedback you have before that proposal goes live. As far as 2 proposals, we'll hear from Simon as far as the meta pathways. We talked about this on the last call. So this is mostly just to check in to make sure that it was on your radar. So we had a lot of people out for the holiday in China, and then ending it with the thresholds with the AC bot. As always, we should have lots of time on the end if there's anything you want to discuss. Floor is yours. So this call happens every other week. Today is October 17th. Next call will be very spooky, taking place on October 31st. If you're keen to add this to your calendar, here's the link. And if you're looking for this deck, it's posted in the Fil Plus channel of Slack right there for you. The agenda, if you want any points on the call, as always, I make an issue after every topic. If you want to see something added to the call specifically, feel free just to comment in that GitHub issue. Say, hey, Kevin, I'd like to talk about XYZ. I'll be sure to work with you, grab your slides, and bake it in. And I almost skipped us. As a friendly reminder, we're your governance team. If you need any specific help, we all have a specific role that we'll fill. If you're not sure who to reach out to or you're stuck, feel free to ping me and I'll be happy to route you to the best point of contact, whether it's a doc or a person. All right, so with that, let's jump into it. Notaries, thank you for joining the call. I just put the Airtable link back in the chat. Thank you, as always, for signing this up. Not only does it show your participation for future elections and your standing in the community, it's also a really helpful signal for us to see where some of your time is going as a notary so we can work on the tooling that best serves you and not just something that might not be as helpful. So thank you so much for signing in. Notaries.sla is right there in chat for us as we go forward. All right. Hey, we are less than 1 month away from the network base taking place in Istanbul. This event's scheduled to go from the 14th through the 16th, and the link is right here in the slide deck. I will grab that. I don't think I can while I share. And this has all the talks that are going to be taking place. We're currently scoping the Fil Plus session. Should last around 3 or 4 hours. And it's going to cover the election. It's going to be a recap of 2023, roadmaps of 2024, and we're working on that right now. Rachel, thank you so much for putting that in chat. That means a lot. And so you can see all the registration stocks there. I wanted to let you know that with everything going on in the world, I wanted to address this, that this might not always be the best time for someone to travel. So if you might have thought about going to this event, but maybe this isn't the best time for traveling, we are working on making this a remote viewing option. The goal is to make it live so you can dial in. If that's not possible, we'll have lots of cameras and recording set up. So if you can't be there live, you can still find the information and we'll share it for you. So I wanted to make sure that I was sharing that early. Since we're 1 month away, that's what you'll see. But we'll be dedicating 4 hours to Fil Plus topics. Again, what does the election look like? What are we working on? And what inputs you may have. I'll pause and see if anybody has any questions about this event, whether it's the topics or the location or the remote.
Hi, Kevin. This is Amanda.
Hi.
Hi. I'd like to know this kind of events, are you holding, like how often you hold this kind of events? Once a year or?
Amanda, that's a great question, like an audience plant question. Thank you for that. These big events, you'll see, this is a once a year type event. There's many more smaller events like dev working groups, dev summits, but this one is an annual event. The last one was held around the same time, November, back in Lisbon. So yes, this is a larger event hosted by the foundation, and it's annual.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Amanda. Kind of moving on with just a high level on bug reports. So I see some of you on the call. Thanks for coming. Just do a quick search here. Yeah, MX well. So what we see sometimes is we work with a lot of developers that are working on the tooling for the glyph or the data cap allocations or some of the third-party systems. There's a lot that goes into the ecosystem. So I want to call out just a quick thank you for those of you that posted in Slack, like, hey, I saw an issue, this was the result. It's really, really helpful. Usually what happens is when we see your comments in Slack, Simon, myself, KZ, Phil, any one of us that notices that, then goes back and immediately pings with the developers to make sure that they're looking at this. We monitor Slack throughout the day. Like I've got no life, so I'm pretty much always in it. But the developers, they're busy coding. So when you let us know in Slack, it makes it really effective for us to kind of flag this up. So I just wanted to call out and say a big thank you for flagging this, letting us know that there was a problem. I wanted to keep you updated that Simon's been working with those dev teams to get that resolved, and we should see progress coming in here shortly. But this was just a big thanks for flagging this in Slack. It makes it really effective for us to come through and help. And I'll pause to see if anybody has any questions about the recent bug or the process as we go forward. Yeah, that was straightforward. Well, thanks again, Maxwell. I appreciate you guys flagging that. File this under super advanced warning. So what we're working on and looking at right now is the election update. We talked about this about 2 calls ago, and we had the 4th round of notary elections this time in 2023. Excuse me. Wow, losing track of years quick. Well, as we're getting ready for 2024, we're looking at that. And what we plan to do is have all of the proposals and all of the forms and all of the systems for elections ready to go by Istanbul, which is November 14th. So this is just, if you were attending, this is your first call or you're a notary now, you'll start to see a lot more communication between now and the 14th. When we did Lisbon, we had a whole talk, it was an hour and a half, talking about what goes into the election, the application, the scoring rubric, as well as the dates. I have a screenshot there. That's exactly what we're doing here for this 5th round. What are the dates to apply? When should you be ready? And the goal is that when the election finally starts, it's not a surprise. You've had 2, 3, 4 weeks to be ready and really kind of have your thought process of what information you want to have good to go. So this is one of those updates, like prepare to be updated, and that's going to come in time. Right now, this is what we're working on. And to kind of give you an idea of what we're working on, it's really coming down to this model that we're calling allocators. So we're working on a proposal that's going to be launched very shortly, if not today, this week. And it talks about pathways for data cap. And if you've been around Fil Plus for a while, you know that there's like a direct allocation through Glyph, where you can get a very small amount, like 32 gigs. Or you can do a direct allocation with the notary or a large data application. Or if you have enterprise data, you can go through the working group Enterprise Fil Plus that KZ leads. As we're looking at this in 2024, what we're trying to do is break down the bureaucracy in this and trying to make it a lot easier for data cap to be quickly reviewed, have the diligence run, and then pushed out. And so what that means is 2 essential ways of that data cap. It's one, you have a manual review, very similar to LDN. Someone reviews it, looks at the data, looks at the retrieval, looks at it, make sure that it lines up, and gives the data cap. Or can we automate this in some way, just like Glyph, where as soon as you hit the request, it's a lot faster with trustworthy data. So this is why the election is going to be a little bit more tricky for us to set up, because we're rewriting the rubrics, we're rewriting these applications to kind of make it so this data allocation goes out. Less as having notaries be like a stamp in the chain, but having notaries be more like an allocator of data as it was intended when this FIP3 came out. So look for more updates on this one. We'll probably talk a lot more about allocators on the next call. And once the proposal's written, you could read about it, give us your feedback, and see how we could tailor this more. So I'll pause and see if anybody has any questions on the election, on Fil Istanbul, or the allocators that we're talking about. While we wait, I'll field the question in chat. It comes from Eric at D-Store. It's like, hey, I'm keen to attend Istanbul. Can we help with the invitations? I know that we can link you with registration. Eric, I'm not tracking anything that's like a grant purposes to help with travel or the cost of that? Is that the root of your question, or is it just where to go to sign up?
Kevin, I think he's talking about invitation letters by the country, visa support.
Yep. I'm happy to help with that. If you want to send me an email, our events team can get you a formal letter to help with your visa. And I'll put my email address in the chat.
Wonderful. Wasn't even tracking that. Yes, thank you so much. And I'll put that in the public chat after this if anybody has any questions too. Eric, thanks for raising that. All right. We have two proposals. I'll hand it over to Simon for the first for a quick update on the meta pathways.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think honestly, K-Ray, you kind of touched most of it, talking about how we have the 4 existing pathways to data cap that currently exist in Phil Plus. We want to expand that and allow the notaries to sort of create their own pathways to data cap. We're seeing as the program evolves and grows with more users and expanding over time, there's new use cases and client problems. And so we welcome notaries to create these different pathways. Some examples that you could see within the Phil Plus Slack channel, like ideas that were raised was, let's say, data swap or the auction house, the trustless notaries. This proposal, we're finalizing this right now. We just want to make sure we hit everything, but it should be coming out fairly soon. We really do want to get your input from the community. Hopefully we can get this released by Phil Istanbul and make the big announcement.
Simon, I know that if I was on the call in the community, I would probably have questions on this, and my questions would probably come once I read the proposal. So just a quick update. I know that Simon, you guys are putting the finishing touches on that documentation. That proposal will go live, and we'll get a lot of feedback from that, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I think the time we can use for the notary governance call, there's always async as well, commenting on the proposal itself too. I really encourage, if people agree or even disagree, please just provide some reasoning behind it on why. That's going to help us on improving the proposal as well, rather than just kind of just seeing the yes or no's.
Nice. Bill, I see you're on the call. Can I hand it over to you for an update on the thresholds?
Yeah, sure. I think I just quickly updated the slide, but it's okay. I can just talk through it instead. This AC bot is going to be a bot that will be used to aggregate data from different sources and enforce compliance on different clients. So some of these data sources include CID checker, which checks the client's CIDs that they're making deals with, retrievability bot, which is going up to the client and checking the retrievability of all their SPs, the claimed minor counts and min count. So like stuff like checking that the SPs that the clients claim to be using are actually the SPs that they're using. Smaller things like that. They all compile and aggregate into this bot. What this would do is we would check those data sources and then use those data sources to intervene in data cap allocation if it is clearly abused. So what we're deciding now, on a technical level, everything is done. We're just finalizing thresholds for this. So maybe, for example, CID checker score in the first 2 weeks of AC bot, you need a minimum CID checker score of 25, or not, you might get your data cap paused, and things like that. So we're building a schedule. We want to be aggressive enough that it reduces abuse in all of the systems, but we don't want to be too aggressive that it just cuts everyone out. So we're trying to find the right balance with all these thresholds and making sure that it gradually, the situation will gradually get better over time, and it also gives everyone a chance to provide information to adapt to this new compliance.
Bill, that's great. There was a question that came through in chat, came down to the verification of data. Can you talk more about that?
So I don't think for this we don't have data, because I feel like that is quite a subjective matter, right? You could put a data sample online, but it could be not the whole data sample, right? It could just be like a small bit, and that could not be not representative of the whole data set, right? So instead of fighting that battle, which we could add that to this aggregation compliance bot. Instead of fighting that battle, instead we're checking like how well they're doing their deal making instead. So retrievability buttons here to check it.
What's the use if we don't look at the data that's stored?
I mean, you could check if they're doing good deal making. I think that's a good proxy for that, right?
No.
I feel like looking at the good data, it's kind of difficult, right? Because you could, but then how are you going to look through PIBs of data?
Well, you can do one random retrieval, and you can put the whole retrieval online.
Yeah, sure.
So notaries can look at it.
Yeah, we could also do that. But we have to figure out how to do that in a systematic manner, I guess. Because a lot of the AC bot, how it works is it's automated, so it just triggers. Like, there's no way to like. Okay, so I'm assuming you retrieve a random sample of the data, and then
sure,
everyone sees it and says yes or no.
Just a random deal that's stored like in the last weeks.
Yeah, I agree. We could do that, but we can't do that in an automated manner. There still needs to be a human in the loop, right? That could be another, like, we could also do that.
No. You don't need to have a human being in the loop, but if you put the data online in the LDN ticket, like a link to the deal, to the unpacked data, we can all see it what the client is storing. I mean, what's the use to have verification when you don't look at what someone is storing?
I mean, good deal making. Like, it's harder to do good deal making, right?
Well, no, I don't agree with you. Sorry.
Bill, is there a world where we do like a V1 launch of the AC? We check deal making, and then to Wynan's point, as we get this tooling built out, there could be this retrieval where it randomly selects retrieval. Is that possible?
I do think that's like probably the way to go. That's the way I envision it. Because this is already like almost at launch, so we're almost there for this.
Yeah, but I asked for it in Iceland, and if nobody, this is basically an open path for somebody to store like data that is basically garbage. We don't look at the data, so the AC book will just trigger and trigger and trigger and go on and go on. We will store petabytes of data.
We're not giving data cap through the AC bot. We're actually either pausing or removing data cap only.
Yeah, I don't. As long as there is not a visual verification by a notary that the data is indeed the data the client is storing, I don't see the use of using this. But hey,
I mean, it eliminates a lot of people that are doing like proper good deal making, right? So it doesn't give people data cap. That doesn't. So there's
but I know the discussion like, hey, the bot says everything's okay. Let's approve this one. Oh, this is looking good. Let's approve this one. It's just It's a source of truth when there's no real data behind it. I can make a pretty good deal making with just garbage data. So I don't see the use of this unless there's a visual confirmation that the data is real. That's my opinion.
And it's a good flag to kind of sorry, Phil, go ahead. Sorry, no.
We can talk about this more offline.
What I was going to say, and I like that. I like how we have the AC bot doing data retrievals, and then looking at this from like a, if I'm hearing you correctly, a random sampling of the data that gets pulled in by the bot. So if someone's storing like 4 bytes, it pulls in a small tranche and it lets the reviewer see what data came back. That's essentially what the ask is, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the engineering lift is. And I think that that was what Phil was talking to, is like, it might be that would slow the project down 2 months while we got the engineering resources to do that. I know that Phil has been working with the dev teams. I don't know if we can get that into the V1, but that's definitely going to be built into the roadmap.
Come on, I already have this running on my own site. It's really very simple to do retrieval for a random deal. You just look at the deal numbers from the Fil Plus API. You do a random function. You take one, you download it, you put it online, done. It's really very simple.
Nice. I can't speak to the engineering lift, but hearing that, I think Phil offered, we'll start a thread with you after this call and loop in with the devs and see what we could do to build that in the roadmap. It's good feedback, and I'm happy that we're documenting that. I'm gonna make a note here in my text as well.
K-Ray, hey, it's Kevin. I can just chime in really quick as well. I think, Wyland, when we developed the new allocator for the open data sets, that should definitely be a requirement. I think we'll build that in, right? So step one is to run the AC bot, as you can see from just this test data that Phil's showing here. Of the 188 samples, 13 after 5 or 6 weeks are meeting the criteria that we're setting, right? So we can say, okay, let's take those 13 and let's run this test on them, and someone can manually check that as part of the open data set allocator that we'll create. I think that'll be required, no problem. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We might have to. I think we can link up with you and ensure we have everything set up properly.
Yeah, well, why not? To like close this out and call, like we can continue async. I don't have a problem with your proposal. I think we could do it. Yeah, I actually don't have a problem with your proposal. We could talk about it more, and we could probably build a process for it. If it's technically a low lift, then yeah, we could even launch it soon. If we just talk it out here.
Okay.
Fine, great flag. Thanks for bringing this up. So I'll make a note. So on the next governance call, we'll circle back to like what the feasibility is, when the rollout, if that can be part of this V1, if it should get rolled out with the allocator. So I'll put an update for us to come back to that. Wine, thanks again. Right. Before we get into community discussions, I wanted to say thanks. One thing that I've noticed in Slack, just for flagging this for anybody on the line, is people writing like, hey, I filed an application. I haven't seen a signature, or I haven't been waiting for a notary to get back to us. If you file an application, whether you are requesting data set, we have this, and you can see here under LDNs, we have about 272. We encourage a lot of the applicants and notaries. There's a Slack channel. I'm going to put it right here in chat. It's the application request. So if you look in Fil Plus, lots of conversations, lots of like real strategic thinking. If somebody is looking for just help with their application, like I've got a question or I want someone to sign it, we encourage them to go into that Slack channel and post. And then if I don't see movement on that, usually I'll ping the notary channel like, hey, we've got this one. They are willing to update or due diligence. So just want to share again, if you're on this call and you were looking for data cap, go to that Slack channel, and that's a great way to get in touch directly with the notaries who might not always be reading the Fil Plus channel for updates. So that Slack channel is a great way to get movement on that. It's a great way to post it. And while I was talking, we just had a chat question come in saying that the Singapore meeting, that the bot currently has no way to retrieve the veracity of the data, and this still requires work. Phil, can you talk to that at all? I wasn't at the talks in Iceland when Juan may have talked about that.
I don't think Juan talked about the AC bot directly, but yes, I do believe that when it comes to looking at the quality of data, you do need a human in the loop. However, since this is a bot, I don't think you can turn like human qualitative analysis into actual numbers that the bot can work with. So I think, yes, there can be humans in the loop, but I don't know if it should be part of the AC bot. It should just be part of another thing. Like we will put out a random data sample into the GitHub, but that calculation won't be used to, like, we can't use that to systematically remove data cap, right? Or systematically pause data cap. Like, how do we do that? How do you turn human yes or no's to like a number? Yes or no. It's hard to do that. Unless you have any solutions, we can discuss that. I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, but now notaries don't view the data at all. So if we put the data online, at least a random sample, then together with the AC bot, this will be a good source of truth.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're right. I'm worried that the AC bot will be used as, oh, like people say AC bot is okay, I'll just give data cap. I don't think, and that's what happened with the CID checker before. I don't want that to happen, so I'll definitely document this in a way that we should not use the AC bot to just allocate data cap randomly. One, and two, I think I also agree that we probably have to launch it with something like a random sample to put into the GitHub application to see that, like, to have a human check to see if the data is actually legitimate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have a lot more to come on this one. Appreciate that. Eric, thanks for the question on that. And Wyman, thanks again for helping with the dev cycle as they work to iterate that. That kind of concludes any updates that we had flagged, either from proposals, from Slack. We still have plenty of time, so I wanted to open the floor up for anybody on the call. Time is yours. Anything you want to discuss, floor is yours.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, hi, Meta.
Hey, hi, Kevin. So I've noticed the number 844 proposal in FIPS is about allowing unrestricted minting the data cap. So since this topic is still under discussion, is there any idea from the governance team? Thank you.
That's a great question. I'm pulling up 844 so I could link it. When you say any discussion, I think the role of the governance team is not to be arbiters of the network, more of like supporters of this. So we don't weigh in on it. As I pull this up, maybe I'll turn the floor over to KZ, RG, if you guys have any thoughts while I pull that link.
Okay, so what would the next step gonna looks like? Is gonna be like a public vote, or how are we gonna move to the next step? Because people are still talking about it.
Yeah, maybe I handle that question and see if there's anything else that comes as I dig it up. So as far as a vote goes, I know that they're looking at like, how do you process it? Typically the way that works for like any kind of fundamental change is it goes through this, essentially 844's proposal piggybacks off of it. Then it goes to the core devs for a review cycle, and that gets kind of pushed. So it's not like a strict democracy where we have 12 votes yay, 11 votes nay, and then it does not pass. It's mostly like it goes in for this discussion for like community sentiment. And it's almost like a representative system with like the core devs looking at this. So I think 844 is still in that review cycle as we go forward on it. RG, KZ, do you have anything that you want to add and more tactics on that?
I know okay right now. I'm not familiar with this shit. More so the process that you're talking about. I think we need to wait on that a little bit more to see what happens.
Ways to find that link. So put it in chat. There's 774, and this was the scheduled reduction of the quality multiplier. And this got merged into a separate branch, 844. Let me see if I can find it a link here. This is the discussion topic. I'll share the screen. Perfect. So if you're watching here, the link's in chat. So great question, Amanda. So what it is right now is the FIP draft here, and then this is the current carry forward on it. So what they have right now is all the conversations and input on like, what does this implementation look like? What's the support look like? And then what is the engineering requirements that go forward on that? So it looks like the last updates are still like a week or two away. I will follow up and see what the next step is. There's a member of the foundation, Caitlin Beagle, and she kind of sits at that threshold between how does this get implemented from the community and then how does this get implemented from the engineering standpoint to really iterate this with the core devs. I'll follow up and I'll see if I can invite her to the next governance meeting and she could update in a little bit more tactical detail. I've got like a high level on how this works, but she can say specifically like what are next steps with this and then what's it going to look like. Is it goes forward or doesn't go forward, and what are the reasons for it? So I think great question. I'll put this in the agenda for next cycle so we could talk to this in a lot more tactical detail. Would that be okay with you, Amanda?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much.
And you. We'll do one last call. If anything's on your mind, complete floor, anything you want to talk about. Hey, with that, we'll wrap a little bit early. We'll have follow-ups on the AC bot retrieval coming next week. Thanks for flagging that. We'll have updates on 844 on the next call too. Thanks for flagging that. And if you have anything else that comes up, as always, feel free to put those in the agendas and I'll make sure that I bake those in. So I'll come to this meeting with an answer for you as we go live on that. Thank you everyone for your time. Looking forward to seeing you on the next call or the very spooky October 31st in 2 weeks. Cheers, everyone. Well, friendly hellos. Welcome to the second Notary Governance call of October 17th. I'm pleased to announce that on this call, we have a live translator.
很高兴到今天能够参加我们第二次的会议在10月17号，我们今天也有现场的翻译。
We're giving this a try. This is the first of two. We're really curious to look for your feedback and your participation. If this helps, please be vocal tonight.
因为这是我们这次第二次的一个会议在17号第二次会议，我们也希望晚点能够得到你们的一些回馈，了解一下我们今天处理的状况是怎么样。
As always, if you feel comfortable, post in chat or please raise a hand and we'll get to your question.
如果你有需要举手或者是送简讯进来，我们都会稍微看一下。
All right. Here's what's on the agenda high level. 3 parts. Part number 1, we're going to update you on a bug that was flagged. We're going to talk about the upcoming meeting in Istanbul, and we're going to update you on the allocators. These are all brand new topics, so we want to make sure that those were flagged.
在我们今天的议程上呢，我们有3个主要的重点。第一个就是在我们的一些 bug 的一些报告另外就是在我们的在准备土耳其伊斯坦堡的一个高峰会议的一些等于是一个大概的一个状况报告。另外就是 Allocator 跟 View 的这些我们公众人的一些update。
The proposal section is topics that we've discussed on the last call. No new business, but just keeping you updated as they progress.
在提案部分，我们就是要讨论一下上一次我们讨论到原通路的一个部分呢，我们这次呢再稍微再继续再讨论一下。
So, as always, this call takes place every other week. The next call is scheduled to take place October 31st. The calendar is updated. Please share it or be tracking the 2 times.
我们这个是每2周一次的会议我们下一次的会议是定在10月31号麻烦在你们的那个calendar 上呢要稍微记录一下。
And as a reminder, we will have a translator live on the October 31st call as well.
我们希望在31号我们也能够有那个翻译的机会。
If you have any topics that you want to see added, please, we have a GitHub issue, leave a comment, and we will add it to the agenda for anything that you wanted to bring up next week on the second call on the 31st.
如果在31号的时候你们有任何其他的一些事件在这个之前麻烦你们把资料还有你的想法 在 GitHub 里面把它打进去，让我们能够看得到。
The team is here as always. Just as a friendly reminder, everyone is broken into a subject category. If you're not sure who to ping, you can always reach out to me. Or if you're not sure where the issue can go, I can happily route you to any member of the governance team.
在我们的公证人这个团队里面呢，我们每一个人都有分工这个分工大家都很精细如果你能够跟他们独自联络上的话很好，如果不能的话，麻烦你跟我联络就可以了。
All right. So here is the link for tonight's Notary Governance call. Thank you for signing in. This is helpful, not just for you currently, but for notaries in the future.
这个是我们今天晚上要使用的 link 连结谢谢你们参与。
All right. The upcoming event in November is the Filecoin Network Base. This is the annual large conference between Protocol Labs and Filecoin Foundation. The last conference was held in 2022 in Lisbon. This 2023 conference is scheduled to be held in Istanbul.
那这是我们下一次要准备11月14到16号的一个在伊斯坦堡的一个会议。上一次的会议是在这个另外一个国家的去年的一个会议
In chat is the link if you're curious to see about registration. The big update on this topic is given world events, the team is going to prioritize making remote viewing an easier option for those that cannot travel to the Middle East at this time. So we will have updates on either live viewing or remote viewing after the event for those that can't attend live.
就算我们不能去参加在下一次的这个会议呢，我们在这个下面这个 link 里面呢，附在我们的这个讯息里面让大家能够在当时可以是经过一个远端的方式去参与让大家有机会能够去了解我们这个整个 project 进行的状况。
We use these events as a means to bring the community together and really dive into big issues. In 2022, it was having to do a lot with the fourth round election. We anticipate that at the next conference in Istanbul, a lot of the conversation will take place on the new model for what an election looks like in 2024. So if you were curious about the next election, the Istanbul Phil Summit will greatly talk about that upcoming plan.
我们利用这些会议的机会呢，来让我们的这个整个社区社团大家能够有一个参与感。那在2022年的会议里面，我们专注的是在我们第四次的一个选举那在我们的明年的这个下一次的这个会议里面呢，我们的是要讨论一个新的一个模式在2024年呢的一个新的选举的一些方式跟一些细节到时候就会在会议里面呢做一些讨论欢迎大家一起来参与。
So with that, I'll pause before we go on and see if anybody has anything they like to discuss or any questions on this topic.
好，那我们现在暂停一下看看大家有没有什么意见可以欢迎举手或者是把意见写一下。
All right, if anything comes to mind, please let us know. As far as an update on the bug, as you may know, it was flagged in Slack that there's an issue related to data cap allocation. I wanted to keep you updated that one of our development teams is working on this bug right now as a priority 0. We'll have an update probably tomorrow, and we'll at least keep you updated on this. I also wanted to say thank you for posting in Slack. If you see anything that's like a bug or an issue, if you post it either in a DM to me or in the Phil Plus channel or Notaries, it makes it really easy for then us to run it down. So thank you.
我们现在讨论一下我们现在这个 bug 的这个报告的部分那目前这个 bug 的一个休息这个整理的情况是我们把它 set 在这个priority 0这个0的这个 level。那我非常感谢呢，大家能够在我们的 Slack 里面呢，把你们的遇到的一些状况跟一些软体上的一些问题呢，能够放在 Slack 里面非常的感谢。那我们会随时呢注意到大家的一些意见。
For the election planning for fifth round, we wanted to keep you updated as the allocator model is progressing. Some of the governance team is working hard to put together a proposal that would address easier ways for data cap allocation in the Phil Plus program. And one of the conversation and proposal will be around an allocator model. The purpose of this is to increase diligence while reducing the burden and overhead that notaries have to do, as well as the wait time. So the purpose of the allocator model is that it will manually action some tasks, as well as automate most others.
在我们的第5次的这个选举会议里面呢，我们专注的是在这个我们的分配人的这些模式那这个模式里面，我们有一些提议案就是对于这个data cap 的一些 model 的一些东西。我们的重点呢是希望能够增加我们的这些灵敏度快速能够反应，然后呢能够降低大家的一些负担那有些时候我们会用一些人工的方式来这个去做一些安排或者是利用一些比较自动的东西呢，自动化的方式呢来处理一些事情，所以让大家能够在这个做的事情里面呢，能够在整体的运作上更加的顺畅，还有呢减低大家的一些负担。
When this proposal launches this week, we're very much looking for feedback, input, and thoughts. It's mostly around thoughts around, does this scale? And does this improve the quality of life? And is this program well structured? So I'll post this proposal in Phil Plus when it goes live, and we'll keep you updated. But this one, we're very much looking for feedback from the community on how this will impact, as well as your thoughts on ways to improve it.
那我们这个在这一次的这个安排的层级里面呢，我们希望是利用这个模式呢，能够来让大家能够增加这个cover 的广度能够范围上能够增广，然后呢，在我们的增进我们的这个生活的一些这个品质的部分，这是我们的目标。所以我们希望能够得到你的回馈，让我们知道呢这些东西对我们这个整个社区里面它的影响到底是怎么样。所以这方面的一些资讯就麻烦大家一起来提供。
I'll pause now. I know the proposal isn't written, but if anybody has any thoughts or wants to discuss, the floor is yours.
OK， 我们现在暂停一下，来听听看大家有什么意见。
All right. Here's the 2 proposal updates. These are all existing business, just keeping you updated. Simon is working on this. It is the pathways design, which similarly ties into the allocator model. It has to do with looking at, right now, the majority of data going out for Filecoin and Filecoin Plus goes through an LDN. Is there a way to improve that process for more automated pathways? So this is really looking at the project. Is there smarter ways to allocate that data distribution to incorporate some kind of allocation model where notaries possess their allocations, then they distribute it? So in addition to the allocator proposal, this proposal will talk about what are some ways to fast line that data cap.
这个就是目前这个 Simon 在负责的一个部分呢，这个是跟我们的这个 Allocator 这个 Proposal 这个提案呢相关的在 MetaPath 这个 Design 的这个部分那这个重点呢就是在于在我们的 Data Cap 的一些处理的方式如果让我们的这个处理的方式能够更加的顺畅然后能够让这些东西呢不要说有任何的一些障碍让大家在处理这些事情的时候能够达到一个比较好的一些效益。
The second proposal to update you on is what Phil is working. This has to do with the AC bot, and he wanted to provide an update about what kind of fields are being looked at. Now, the purpose of this bot is to check and just examine the thresholds that have been put in. And if you look at these thresholds, it's checking things like CID, retrievability, claim miners count, active and used, and it's breaking it down by totals. The purpose is this bot can run automated, and it won't do everything, but it will do a large swath of that retrieval check.
OK， 这样另外就是在 Phil 负责的这个 AC bot 这个阀值这个 threshold 的部分呢，那这个主要就是说，例如在右表这边，我们主要是看它的 CID 的 checker 啦，这些 retrieving bot 这些值希望能够利用这些值，能够来看看这些状态是如何所以这个也是我们目前在阀值这个 project 的部分呢已经做到的部分给大家一个了解。
On the call this morning, a question was asked, and a lot of conversation was invested in this question. How come this threshold check can't actively check retrievals? Do a random sample, pull back the data, and check to see if that data matches what it should be. Phil addressed this question, and it's going to be looked into and provide updates soon. And the question has to do with how much engineering lift goes into that. And can that be rolled on separately later, or should that be built into the V1?
那在今天早上的另外一个会议里面呢，有人提出来说，在这边的这个 retrieval 这个部分呢，它有些值呢，为何不能够跟其他的能够同步化能够等于是一起做到？那 Phil 呢，目前正在看看它从不同的角度是不是能够找出一些方式，能够让这些东西呢能够解决掉这是一个目前正在处理中的一个问题。
The other question that came up on this morning's call had to do with the FIP that's moving forward for discussion, or proposal for FIP 844. I'll post the link if you don't have it. And essentially what 844 is discussing is a carry-on for removal of the notary incentive or the data cap incentive that's currently there in the program. I didn't have an update on the morning call as far as what the status is on that. So I will look that in, and on the next call, invite somebody that can speak to the status as far as what happens as it moves forward.
那另外在早上我们有提到一个 FIB 844的这个提案那这个部分呢目前有一些资料已经正在处理中，但是因为我并没有得到一些这些最新的资讯，所以在下一次我们的会议的时候呢会邀请有了解的人来跟我们做一点说明。
So with that, that's all the new business that we wanted to make you aware of. I'd like to open the floor. We have 27 people on the call. Is there anything you'd like to discuss, either new topics or what we've already talked about?
那这是在我们的新的一些事项里面呢的讨论到此为止。那今天我们有27个人在线上那也希望大家如果有什么新的一些想法或资讯的话欢迎这个时候可以提出来，大家一起来做一个讨论。
Can you translate the question in chat for us, please?
I'm not able to see the chat. Let me see. Okay, it says there's a question related to nucleation versus Filecoin Plus in the notary team. Does it have any influence?
Yeah, great question, Fat Man. So I can't speak mostly because I don't know. I know that a lot of this is still being worked out. What I will do is I will follow up with Protocol Labs on their side, and on the next governance call, I'll see if I have an update that I could share for you guys. Thank you.
这个是一个非常好的问题那这个我会把这个问题提出跟 Protocol Lab 讨论一下，然后呢再给你一些回应，好不好？ He said fine.
Good question. Thanks, Batman.
OK， 谢谢你，好问题。
All right, last chance.
来，大家把握最后的机会。
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. If there's anything you need, please let us know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
谢谢大家今天的参与如果有什么问题尽量提出，谢谢，感谢。